Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It is another episode of Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. And as always, it wouldn't be the same show if we didn't. So we do have Kelly Cook with us today. Kelly, how you doing?
The double salute today. Elizabeth, doing great. This is awesome. I'm excited about this podcast because this is a topic that is actually, I learned when I heard this, and now I'm just excited because I have the chance to now teach it to everyone else.
It's already something near and dear to your heart. So now you get to kind of dig a little bit deeper into it and learn some new perspectives on it, right?
That's it.
And the topic today is actually going to be something that we've talked about mindset and kind of your headspace and different things like that a lot in this podcast, aside from just talking, pure strategy and systems and things like that. Really, the two go together: mindset and strategies and systems that you implement. They both have to be in balance. They both have to be a piece of making you successful. It just is what it is. You can't really have one without the other. But are you motivated to have, success? That's a really big piece of it as well. I think it kind of goes along with mindset, but it's kind of this internal factor that really drives you toward success or failure, really. So today, Kelly is going to talk to us a little bit about motivation and whether or not you have it. And if you're not sure, you're not quite there, how to get motivated, right? So that you can have a really good, especially as we wrap up the end of the year, and maybe it wasn't your best year. For a lot of people, I know that that's the case. So how do we get motivated to have a fantastic 2024?
Well, that's a good question. And that's always goes with business planning. It goes with any type of planning you're going to do. And so we're going to pivot from that because this is not a business planning podcast. This is a podcast on motivation. And I always thought something, and it's true. You can't force motivation, right? And it's true, you can't. And why can't I find people and surround myself with maybe more people that are just really motivated or as motivated as I am? Because that's a big thing. I think if, they say 8 players want to play together, birds of a feather flock together. And so that's a real thing. And when you're not surrounded by people who want to row the boat as fast as you do in the same direction, it can be kind of frustrating. So I've realized that over the last several years, that's been something that I've been working on because I'm just intrinsically a very highly motivated person. So I love to be around other people who are motivated because guess what? That motivates me. And then I want to do bigger and better things and be a better version of myself and all that great stuff. But this presentation I heard is phenomenal because he talked about why people maybe aren't as motivated as others, where motivation actually comes from. So I want to go over this with you guys today because this is great. And especially when you talk about business planning, no matter what business you're in, not just real estate, you should be planning to make next year a better year than this year, because that's kind of the essence of not just business, but just human growth, right? You want to grow. No one really wants to regress. And the old saying of you're either growing or you're going backwards or dying is true. Last time I checked, I don't know of any real estate agents that made exactly to a penny the same amount of money they made the year before. It may have went down just a little bit or up just a little bit, but it still moved nonetheless, right? So why not try to explode the growth and be better for next year than you are today? But it takes planning. And it takes understanding and the ability to work on your business and on yourself, not just in it. That being said, I want to share you some quotes and some information from this gentleman I heard this from. And those of you who are big on social media, you know who this is. This is Alex Hormozi. So Alex, real quick, is a influencer, but he really is a operational business owner. And what he does, he takes businesses that aren't doing so well, he makes them better, and then he sells them. And he does really well at it. But he also makes a lot of content around that because he sees the interworkings of failed businesses all the time. And he sees the commonalities, and therefore he knows how to have a real good idea of how to then take out the weaknesses, make them strengths, get better people, better systems, whatever it may be, and turn the ship around. So if you want to turn your ship around, how do you do it? How do you do it? Well, it starts with motivation. It starts with getting in tune with your why, your big why. But he had this quote as part of his presentation. So I'm going to give him credit for what I'm going to talk about because it really opened my eyes. And he said this: your motivation is proportional to your deprivation. Your motivation is proportional to your deprivation. And we know this from some simple, basic, fundamental things. For example, if you're tired and hungry, you perceive there's a gap. Now, those are foundational things, right? You have to eat and drink and get sleep. Otherwise, you won't live very long. So there's a gap. You perceive there's a gap. You know there's a gap. And so because you're deprived of these basic things, so you're highly motivated to find some food, right? Otherwise, you know what the consequence is probably going to be. And it's terminal, right?
Dire
Like you're
situation.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fatal. So there's a gap. You're deprived. You're motivated. Okay. So then he goes on. So now I'm tracking with this, thinking, okay, this is good. This is very true. We all get that. So then he says, you would think by, well, let me just say this. He says, you only feel poor. Now, if you switch it over to money, for example, or, real estate closings that translate into income. Okay. You only feel poor if you perceive a large gap between where you are and where you really want to be. And really is capitalized. It's because it's very important where you really want to be. This isn't business planning where you say, I want to make $100,000 next year. And then you write down some things as to how you might do that or get there. And then by March, you're so far behind already that it doesn't even matter. Why is that? Because you never perceived a big gap. If it's true that you were fine making some denomination of money that is far less than that, then you're going to do what it takes to just hold on to that amount of money you need. Yeah, you're not. So there's no gap in that situation. There's no perceived gap. And so you're not going to be motivated. And he goes on to say a few things more about this, which I think is great. So he says, your environment sets your standards. Change your environment, change your behavior. Change the environment, change the behavior. This is why networks are so valuable. This is why your network is so valuable. You hear these sayings like your net worth is the equivalent of your network, right? And because your network is so important, who you surround yourself with is important. You heard mom and dad say all this stuff when you were kids, right? Mm-hmm. But it's true. We don't want to hear it.
You are your friends, or
we like
whatever.
our friend,
yeah.
right? Who might be a little crazy, but we like them. So we don't want to hear it. But it's true. It's so true. And I wish I would have really had this sink in for me at an earlier age, because you could have maybe just elevated yourself much faster in whatever it is that you're looking to do. It's not always about, the income aspect. It could be other things too.
If you want to be a healthy lifestyle, you want to go to the gym, you want to eat well. Well, if you're surrounding yourself with people who don't have that and they, want to eat Twinkies all the time,
yeah,
good for them, but it's not really going to match up with it's going to be harder to hit your goals when you're not surrounding yourself with people who have the same interests and support. Really, they can't really support you.
So how many of you agents out there listening right now, especially, have an environment you can go to that is conducive, it is right for real estate. It is right for client acquisition, for lead generation, for making those calls, those emails, those text messages to people that you are trying to obtain as clients or serve clients you already have. How many people do that? Because there's only a few hand-selected percentage of people on this planet that can do it from just a bad or just a normal, regular environment. Let's say just your house. Well, your house is where you do everything else with your family, and the refrigerator's there and you eat and all stuff. So how many of you can separate that comfort of your house, because your house hopefully is comfortable for the most part, at least, and do the hard things that it takes? Not very many. Some people can, not very many. So then you need to change your environment. Now, let's say you are one of those people that even can do that.
From my house.
Well, but if you're where you want to be, mm-hmm. then your environment's totally fine. If you're not, then the first thing you should do is change your environment. Because if you change your environment, right away, you change the foundational behavior, step one. Now, there's other behaviors you might have to change too, like actually getting on the phone, talking to people, whatever it is, if you're in sales, but you change the foundational behavior immediately. And that is changing the environment. Okay. And that's why your network is so valuable, because if you have a network of people that do go to an environment, I don't care if that environment is 50 people at Starbucks every morning. Now you might get kicked out of Starbucks. I don't know, but that's a lot. But it's somewhere. It just happens to be for a lot of real estate people in a real estate type office. Like we have a lot of agents in our office, and we know that about a third come into the office consistently. The other third are hit and miss. And then the other third, we never see them hardly, except for maybe just, bigger, larger events. And what's so funny about this, Elizabeth, is that we also have almost the same proportional percentage of agents when it comes to production. We have a third that are doing really well, a third that are doing average, and a third that aren't doing well at all when it comes to production, closing deals, making income. Why is that? But it's true. It's so interesting. So he goes on to say, the environment stretches the gap and you experience the deprivation. The environment stretches the gap and you experience that deprivation. Rich people, categorize however you want to, rich people are more deprived of money than the poor because they compare themselves to richer people than poor people do. That's the reason. When he said that, the light bulb came on for me. That makes all the sense in the world. So he went on to say, picture the example. You have the person who, makes X amount of money, it doesn't matter, some denomination, and they want to double their income. And let's say it's just an average normal amount of money, whatever, right? But they want to double it next year. So they double it, 2X, double it. That's the goal next year. Okay. Now compare that to someone else who already makes, and by all intents and purposes, an absorbent amount of money. I don't say $1 million. Okay. But they, because of whatever reason, they want to 10 times their goal. They want to make 10 million next year. Well, if it comes March, April, and both sides are equally behind their goal, who perceives the larger gap?
$1 million
the quote unquote
person.
Yeah, the $1 million person, the rich person, right? Perceives it, and therefore they don't feel as good about themselves, and therefore they have a switch they probably can't turn off much, and they just do whatever it takes to get back on goal to try to hit that goal, whatever that denomination of money is. The perceived gap is larger, and therefore they're way much more highly motivated. Whereas the person here, they're behind, yes, but the gap is still like, well, I can, say from 40 to 80,000, I can, do a big deal here, there, or whatever, get a lucky bonus or something, right? I can maybe get it. It's still within reach potentially. Whereas the person so far behind this one that's trying to 10x their goal, a big bonus ain't going to even put a dent in it hardly, right? So that's so fascinating. And he says, if you want to change what you do, change who you compare yourself to. If you want to change what you do, change who you compare yourself to. Gold, straight gold, Elizabeth, okay? Note, the bean has 100% to do with doing. You must take action. So if you want to be a certain type of person, then you need to do what that person does or did at some point before they got elevated to where they are today. You have to do it. You can't just educate yourself and inform yourself, read books, listen to podcasts, and that's it. I am so thankful for everyone who listens to this podcast, and I hope they get value out of it. Because I think me and Elizabeth do a pretty darn good job. At the same time, if that's all you did,
the point is so that you go out and do it. Yeah.
Yes. You say, hey, look, there's we had a bunch of listings we got last year, and listings are hard to come find. And what we did was we did this contest where we all came in the office from Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. We made calls and then that's what you need to do. You can't just listen and go, that's a good idea. Yeah, I get it, but I'm not going to go do it. Because why? It's hard. It's not easy. Being has to do with doing 100%, not 99. Okay. So I love that. And then he says, whenever you get stuck, break down the thing you need to do continually into smaller chunks until you get something you understand how to do. So someone says, you know what? To go get some more listings, go knock on 300 doors. And boy, if you just do that, I have the sample size of all these agents who, if you do that, you'll get 10 listings. Okay, great. Now, I believe it. I conceptually understand what to do. But now when I actually get out my car and walk up to the front door, what in the world do I do? How many doors? 300? Okay. Do I do them all in succession? Do I do ones that maybe have higher equity or low equity because I have data on that? Do I go to a higher turnover neighborhood or a lower turnover neighborhood? I mean, what do I say? Do I bring any props with me? Do I have something to write their name down? I mean, all these things, you don't know how to do it. You conceptually understand it, but you don't know how to do it. So you must break these down into things of terms of how you do. So when I say on this podcast that I'm all about meat and potatoes, coming from Nebraska, right? And I love meat and potatoes. I mean it, because I get annoyed personally when I get on a podcast or a book or go to some seminar or whatever, and the person talks about this cool thing they're doing, and it's like, yeah, I get it. But then they leave out, they talk about steps 1, maybe how you get started, maybe, or they just jump right to step 10 and they talk about the end result. I want to know step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, 10. I want to know all of them. So I know, because I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but I can replicate like a mofo, right? I can copy with the best of them as long as I have permission to do so.
Yeah.
So I want to know those steps. I want to know those details, and it irritates me. So you got to break down what it is you want to do into things you understand so that you know how to do it. That was very important. And I'll leave you with this, guys. This is also what he said too. Right now in real estate, the market is not easy, right? It's a little more challenging. You have high interest rates. You have a lack of supply. You have people that aren't getting off the fence, kind of sitting around seeing what's happening. You have high inflation in the economy. You have all this uncertainty going around, yada, yada, yada. So what he said is this: you have to understand a couple of things. And this is what you have to understand. If you want to get through this right now, it's going to be maybe 3 times harder to sell that one house than it has been in the past. Okay, 3 times harder. That's hard. However, 10 times the amount of people are watching you. 3 times harder, but 10 times amount of people who normally are watching you, maybe on social media or your emails that go out, your videos that are watching you before in 2021, 10 times the amount of people are now watching you to see who is winning in this down, tough, hard market. Because if the perception is that you are winning and you're going to survive through this, then when the time comes that they're going to act because they feel the market's better, who are they going to call? You. So that is huge. And then he says this: you're going to lose sleep. You'll doubt whether it'll work. You'll stress to make ends meet. You won't finish your to-do list. You'll wonder if you made the right call and have no way to know for years, potentially. This is what hard feels like. And guess what? That's okay. Love it. Because it is. People are like, it's hard. I know it is. And that's okay. But it is. Let's not get it twisted here. It's hard. But if you survive and make it through the hard times, you will be so much better out the back door. And I can attest that, guys, because I was in that. I've been doing this for 18 years. I was in that in the Great Recession, and Phoenix had one of the worst markets in the entire country in terms of just everything was in the toilet. Everything was in the toilet. And I worked hard. I pivoted. I adjusted. You did do short sales and foreclosures and work with banks and things you did not want to do, being in quote unquote real estate sales, but you had to do it. And now I look back on it, and that actually was the springboard that really took my real estate career off. It made it just really take off.
When you know what you have to do when it's hard. Yeah. And and so you've gotten through that, that you have, so everything else, not that it's easy afterward, but you already know how you handled yourself in those hard times. And so being able to replicate those in the easier times, just makes you a lot more successful.
No doubt. Because a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. Right?
Yep.
You don't get those skills if it's just calm waters all the time. So just understand it's hard, get through it, adapt. And when this comes out another end, which it will, could be 6 months, could be 12 months, could be 18. When rates drop, economy starts turning again, whatever it may be, more houses are selling, you will be set up for
eventually.
Success.
They will.
Yeah, it will. It's a law. Unless the world completely ends, it will come back around.
Yeah. Don't say that. But
unless Jesus comes back, it's going to keep running. And if it keeps running, it's going to cycle through back.
Yep.
It's just a fact. Mm-hmm. So be prepared for it.
Humans are, repeatable creatures. And so, and that's the way life is. So
that's
fantastic. Right. So I hope that this was really great for me. I am not in real estate, but again, this kind of applies to any industry. Is you have to, I love what you said about the deprivation and kind of comparing yourself or where you want to be, really taking that to heart, because if you are further from where you want to be, you're going to work harder to get there, instead of just kind of like you said, where it's like, well, an extra $10 would be nice, but I'm not going to work that hard for an extra $10 type of, mentality. So
that's right.
Fantastic. Well, if anybody has any questions over this whole episode or anything else real estate related, investing related, property management related, Kelly, where can they reach you?
Yeah, just DM me at Kelly Cook Homes on Instagram or shoot me a text 480-227-2028.
Let us know what you would like us to talk about. And also, if you're looking to build your real estate team, if that's part of your motivation for the upcoming year or upcoming couple of years, please go to buildyourrealestateteam.com. As Kelly said, he likes things to be laid out. He wants all the steps. And so, of course, he has done that for you. Buildyourrealestateteam.com. All the steps are there so that you know exactly what to do to actually get started with your real estate team.
That's it.
All right, Kelly, we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.